Fond as she was of solitary walks, Jane had been wandering rather longer than she had intended, her mind occupied not so much with the story she had lately been reading, as with one she hoped soon to be writing. She was shaken from this reverie by the sight of an unfamiliar figure sitting on a stile, hunched over a book. Her first impression was that he was the picture of gloom, dressed in shabby clerical garb, a dark look on his crinkled face, doubtless a volume of dusty sermons clutched in his ancient hand. Even the weather seemed to agree with this assessment, for while the sun shone all around him, he sat in the shadow of the single cloud that hung in the Hampshire sky. Realizing how far she had come from home, Jane thought it best to retrace her steps without interrupting the cleric's thoughts, as he had unknowingly interrupted hers. During the long walk home, across fields, shimmering with the haze of summer heat, she amused herself by sketching out a character of this old man, storing him away, like so many others, for possible inclusion in some novel yet to be conceived. He was, she decided, a natural history enthusiast, but his passion lay not with anything beautiful like butterflies or wildflowers. No, his particular expertise was in the way of garden slugs, of which he could identify 26 varieties. By week's end, Jane had filled in the pathetic details of his life. Disappointed in love, he had turned to natural history, where the objects of his pursuit were less likely to spurn his advances. As his passion for study grew, and as he shared it more enthusiastically with those around him, his invitations to dine gradually declined until he was left alone on most evenings with his books and his slugs. He was a melancholy figure, which made it all the more shocking to find him on Sunday morning not only seated in the Austen family pew, but smiling broadly and greeting her by name. Jane had led the family procession from the rectory to the small stone church of St. Nicholas, where her father was rector. The church stood on the far outskirts of the village, flanked by flat green meadows. After passing through the rectory gates into the narrow lane that led to the church, the Austens had fallen in with several villagers. When she had concluded her pleasantries with these acquaintances, Jane had not a moment to respond to the stranger's greeting before the service began, and she found herself separated from him by her mother and her sister Cassandra. Of her 6 brothers, none were currently in residence in Steventon. The man's robust baritone voice, evident in his hymn-singing, exuded a spirit that was anything but melancholy. Jane endured a sharp elbow from Cassandra for not attending to the gospel reading. Instead, she was trying to watch the man out of the corner of her eye. She failed to follow the thread of her father's sermon, lost as she was in a re-evaluation of the stranger's history. By the time the service ended, she was thoroughly intrigued and determined to secure a proper introduction to satisfy her curiosity about the true nature of his character. "Go along home, and I shall wait for father," she told her mother and Cassandra as they stood beside the ancient yew tree that clung to the west end of the church. Jane felt certain that a visiting clergyman with leave to occupy the Austen pew must be known to her father, and she expected Mr. Austen to make the necessary introduction. So it came as a surprise when she felt a tap on her shoulder, and turned to face the stranger, who addressed her in a cheerful voice.